All right, so like I said a little bit ago, we are going to be getting into looking at angles today. And we're going to be looking at three different things. We're going to look at the different types of angles. We're going to look at how to measure angles using the protractor. And we're going to look at the different pairs of angles, what those are called. Okay? So the first thing we're going to look at is the three different types of angles. We're going to look at three different types of angles. All right, so what's one type of angle that we looked at? We looked at an acute angle. And what do we know about an acute angle? An acute angle is less than 90 degrees, like we see in this picture here. So an acute angle is less than 90 degrees. What was another type of angle we looked at? Yeah, we looked at an obtuse angle. And what do we know about an obtuse angle? Yeah, it's going to be greater than 90 degrees. Okay? Are you others listening? Please stop. Okay? And what was the other one we talked about? We talked about right angles, which measure what degree? It's a 90-degree angle. Now, there's one other type of angle that we didn't show with our paper plates, but does anyone know what that's called? 180. Which is called what? 180 degrees. I think I heard Summer say it. Straight. Yeah, we also have straight angles, which equal 180 degrees. Okay, so straight angles equal 180 degrees. They're just a straight line. Whoever's whistling, please stop. All right, so let's do a little bit of practice identifying what angles are what. Okay? Okay, I can't handle the whistling. I've already said something about it twice. All right. So go ahead and jot these down. Okay, so number one says a 45-degree angle would be what type of angle? What do we think? It would be an acute angle. What about number two, 173 degrees? Mm-hmm. What about number three, 90 degrees? That's going to be a right angle. Okay, what about number four? Obtuse. Just barely an obtuse angle. Okay, what about number five? Mm-hmm. It's a very small angle. And number six? That's another acute angle. It's almost 90 degrees, but not quite. So if I were to give you any measure of a degree or of an angle, would you be able to tell me what type of angle it would be?
Yeah.
What about a 52 degree angle? What about a 230 degree angle? What about a 180 degree angle? Good. All right, so it looks like you can identify it based on the degree, and I mean really either of these is pretty easy, but go ahead and draw these angles. And we're going to practice identifying them based on what they look like.
It would say that. Oh, okay. The other one, do you have to put like the stone in the square? Do you have to? Okay. Do I put it here or do I put it in the answer sheet?
And your angles don't have to be perfect. Just getting a basic idea. Thomas. What did I say about the protractor? All right, number 1. What kind of angle is that? Obtuse, because a 90 degree angle would be about right there. So it's greater than 90 degrees. So that's going to be obtuse. What about number 2? It's going to be acute. If we had our 90 degree angle, it would be about right there. So this is less than 90 degrees, so it's going to be acute. What about number 3?
Right.
It's a right angle. It's exactly 90 degrees. And number 4? That's going to be another acute angle. Okay? Less than 90 degrees. Okay? How are we feeling about that so far? Okay? So I'm going to show you guys a quick little video. It's a fun little video that I found that gives you kind of a basic overview of the different types of angles. And it's pretty catchy. Okay? Let me make sure the volume is turned up.
Between 0 and 90, an angle is acute. This angle's small and skinny and kinda cute. It looks like a V or the top of a Y, or the angles that you see eating pizza or pie.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
See, when an angle measures 90, do we call it right? You can tell this angle just by sight. It looks like an L or the corner of a square. You're looking at them when you're walking up the stairs.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
From 90 to 180, an angle is obtuse. This angle's kinda fat, it's got a big caboose. Like the hands on the clock when it's 1:45, or the antlers on the head of a full-grown moose.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
Okay, we're going to watch the rest of it a little bit later. Do y'all want to watch it one more time?
To measure an angle's the
No. Okay.
kinda cute. It looks like a V or the top of a Y, or the angles that you see eating pizza or pie.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
See, when an angle measures 90, do we call it right? You can tell this angle just by sight. It looks like an L or the corner of a square. You're looking at them when you're walking up the stairs.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
From 90 to 180, an angle is obtuse. This angle's kinda fat, it's got a big caboose. Like the hands on the clock when it's 1:45, or the antlers on the head of a full-grown moose.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
Okay. So we're going to watch the rest of it in a little bit. Alright, y'all get the lights for me? Okay. So now, if you have the fill in the blank notes, you can flip it to the back, or if you're using your own sheet of paper, either flip it over or continue, whatever you're doing. Alright, so now, as promised, we are going to measure angles using a protractor. We're going to measure angles using a protractor. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to write out the steps first, and then we're going to go back and actually see how to do it, okay? Alright, so the first thing we need to do, and like I said, we're just going to write the steps now, and then we will look at exactly what it looks like in a second. Okay, so the first thing, you line up the circle on the vertex. What's the vertex?
The little circle.
The point on the angle, right? So you're going to line up the circle, and the circle I'm talking about on your protractor, it's in the very middle of the straight edge. You should have a tiny little circle in the very middle. Okay? So you'll line that circle up on the vertex of the angle. Then you'll line up on the protractor, you'll see a 0. You'll line up the 0 with one side of the angle. And what are the two lines of the angle called? Rays. So there's two rays on an angle. So you'll line up the 0 with one of these rays. And then you will follow the other side of the angle on the protractor. Okay? So you'll line up the circle on the protractor on your vertex of the angle. You'll line up 0 with one side of your angle, and then you'll follow the other side of the angle on the protractor to see what its measurement is. Alright, so let's actually look at what this would look like with a protractor. So my middle circle is a lot bigger for whatever reason, but either way, it doesn't matter. I'm going to line it up on my vertex. So you can do the same thing with yours. Find that circle and line it up on the vertex of the angle. Just like I did. Okay, now you're going to turn your protractor till this 0 at the very top is in line with that first ray. Let's see how I did that. So the circle's still on the vertex, and the ray is lined up with this 0. Okay? Then we need to look at the other ray and see what it's pointing to. Should be pointing about at 50. Now there's two numbers here. It says 50 and 130. How do we know which one to use? Yeah, if you're looking at an acute angle, which you can tell by what it looks like, then you need to use the smaller number. But if you're looking at an obtuse angle, it'll be the larger number. Now, obviously, you don't have the exact angle that I drew, so it might vary a little bit. It's just to get practice using the protractor. So I got about 50 degrees. Okay? What about number 2 right here? We may be able to tell right off the bat what it might look like, but let's use our protractor. So I'm going to line up the circle and the 0, and my arrow is pointing at 90. So that one's pretty easy. Okay? Now, let's do this last one. I'm going to line up the circle. I'm going to turn my protractor so that the first ray is pointing at 0. And then I'm going to follow the other ray. Mine's about 130. And why is it 130 and not 50? Because it's an obtuse angle. We have to use the larger number. Okay, like I said, you don't have the exact angle, so it might not be exactly the same. Now, one thing I want to point out that the video says is you can actually line up your protractor with either angle. So this may actually be a little bit easier, so you don't have to turn it. So you can line it up with this 0 on the right and then just follow it this way. You'll get the same thing. Okay? Either way, it's fine. Alright, so now I'm going to flip back to the video, and we're going to watch the last little bit, and then we'll watch it a couple times, and then we can watch the whole thing through. Okay? If someone wants to get the lights again, you can. Alright. Back it up a little bit.
How to remember them with ease.
To measure an angle's degrees with a protractor. Place the vertex at the hole in the center. Line up one ray at 0 on the protractor. Remember that the 0 can be on top or under. Count up to where the other ray points at the number. That will be the angle's measure.
Angles are them with ease.
To measure an angle's degrees with a protractor. Place the vertex at the hole in the center. Line up one ray at 0 on the protractor. Remember that the 0 can be on top or under. Count up to where the other ray points at the number. That will be the angle's measure.
So that's basically what we just looked at. Okay? I'll show the whole thing one more time.
Between 0 and 90, an angle is acute. This angle's small and skinny and kinda cute. It looks like a V or the top of a Y, or the angles that you see eating pizza or pie.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
See, when an angle measures 90, do we call it right? You can tell this angle just by sight. It looks like an L or the corner of a square. You're looking at them when you're walking up the stairs.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
From 90 to 180, an angle is obtuse. This angle's kinda fat, it's got a big caboose. Like the hands on the clock when it's 1:45, or the antlers on the head of a full-grown moose.
Angles
Measuring angles, degrees with a protractor. Place the vertex at the hole in the center. Line up one ray at 0 on the protractor. Remember that the 0 can be on top or under. Count up to where the other way points at the number. That will be the angles measured.
Angles are measured in degrees, and here's how to remember them with ease.
All right. Okay? Someone get the lights for me. All right. So far, we have looked at the 3 different types of angles, and we've looked at how to measure angles using a protractor. Okay? The last thing we're going to do is look at pairs of angles. We're going to look at pairs of angles. All right, so when we're looking at pairs of angles, we're going to look at 2 different pairs of angles. Okay? We're going to look at 2 different pairs of angles. All right, so the first type of pair is called a complementary pair. It's called complementary. Okay? And complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. Okay? So we'd have a 90-degree angle, and then we'd have 2 different angles within that one 90-degree angle. Those 2 angles would be complementary. Okay? So that's one pair, or one type of pair. And the other type we call supplementary angles. So we've got complementary and supplementary. And supplementary angles are going to add up to 180 degrees. And what type of angle was 180 degrees? A straight angle. Okay, so remember, a straight angle is just a straight line. And when we see a pair of supplementary angles, it's going to look, well, pretend there's just one of those there. So this would be one, and then there would be another. So there's 2 angles that add up to 180. Let me see if I can make that look a little neater. How about that? Okay? So we're going to practice determining the measurements of complementary or supplementary angles. So we're going to be given one of the angles, and we're going to have to find the other one. Okay? So like number 1 down here, we'll zoom it in. So just right off the bat, looking at this picture, what type of pair do we have here? Summer? Why are they complementary? Because they both add up to be 90 degrees. So this is a complementary pair. This is a complementary pair of angles. So if they're complementary, what do they add up to? 90. They add up to 90. So if I want to solve for that missing angle, or I would set it up as this angle plus this angle is going to equal 90. How would we solve for x?
90 or minus 35.
We subtract 35 on both sides. And when we do that, what do we get? You should get 55. 55 degrees. Okay? Another way that we can describe this, we just found the complement of 35 degrees. So if they're complementary angles, the complement of 35 degrees would be 55 degrees. What would the complement of 55 degrees be?
35 degrees.
35. Guys, we're being a little too chatty. Okay, so let's look at the second example. What type of pair of angles do we have in this one? Supplementary, because they're going to add up to get what? 180. Okay? So how could I find the value of that missing angle?
180 minus 65. No, 65 plus x equals 180.
Yeah, I could do that. Angle plus 65 is going to equal 180. So I'm looking for the supplement of 65 degrees. Okay? So I'm trying to find the supplement of 65 degrees. So I would subtract 65 on both sides. And what do I get?
150.
Should get 115 degrees. So the complement of 65, or I'm sorry, the supplement of 65 degrees is what?
115 degrees.
115. What's the supplement of 115 degrees?
65.
65. Good. Go ahead and try number 3 on your own. Tell me what type of pair it is and then solve for that missing angle.
Oh, you have to see.
It should just be because you're dividing by 2.
Oh.
All right, so what type of pair do we have? Why is it supplementary? Because they're adding up to get this straight angle right here. So these are supplementary angles. Okay? So supplementary angles add up to get what? 180. So I would take my missing angle plus 90. It's going to have to equal 180.
Subtract 90 from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
90 from 90.
So our missing angle is 90 degrees. So the supplement to 90 degrees is what? 90 degrees. Good. So 90 degrees and 90 degrees are supplementary angles. Okay, let's do one more. What about this one right here? What type of pair is this? Why is it complementary? Mm-hmm. Okay, so complementary angles add up to what? Complementary angles,
90.
they add up to 90. So these two angles have to add up to 90. Okay? So I'll subtract 60 on both sides, and I'll be left with 30 degrees. So the complement to 60 degrees is what?
30 degrees.
What's the complement of 30 degrees?
60 degrees.
Good. All right, let's do a quick recap. What was the first type of angle that we looked at? And an acute angle is what?
Less than 90 degrees.
Less than 90 degrees. What was the second type of angle we looked at? And an obtuse angle?
It's greater than 90 degrees.
Greater than 90 degrees. What was the other type? And it's how many degrees? Okay. And there was one other type of angle we looked at. Straight angles, which are 180. Okay. Measuring an angle using a protractor. What was the first step that we have to do?
The first step is line up the vertex.
You're going to line up the circle on the vertex of the angle.
Then you line up 0 on the side of the angle.
And then what do you do?
Follow the other side of the angle on the protractor.
Good. All right, and last thing. We looked at two pairs of angles. What was the first type of pair?
Complementary.
And they add up to what?
90 degrees.
90 degrees. And the other type?
Supplementary.
And they add up to what?
80 degrees.
Good. All right, good deal.